Welcome to the podcast. In this episode, I spoke to Rhodeen Davies, who is a multimedia graduate from last year. Now, the purpose of this episode specifically was to gain her insights in what her first 6 months in the working world have been like. Obviously, we're in strange circumstances at the moment, but she has some very unique perspectives that people who have been in the industry for 10, 15 years won't have anymore, because they'll completely have forgotten what it's like to be completely new in a company, new in the working world, with new schedules and new routines. So the purpose of this episode is just to understand what is that experience like? What was her experience interviewing? Did she need a CV and a portfolio and those sorts of things? And also just her experience of third year and the degree in general, and some tips that she can give to students who are still in the degree, because all of those experiences are still relatively fresh. So I hope it's a helpful episode, and I hope that you enjoy it. So I just want to say thank you so much for making time to interview with me today, especially the fact that you're in the middle of a work day. So I really appreciate it.
It's no problem. It's fun to be here.
Awesome. Can you start off by telling me what you do, however much you can, based on non-disclosure agreements? And yeah, what's your job? What do you do every day?
Yeah, sure. So I am a UI UX developer, graduate developer. So I work at Gendac over here in Pretoria. We develop solutions for different clients. Our client is sort of like a financial client. We develop a web platform for them where they can perform various things. So I'm on a team of 4 people. We're 2 UI UX and 2 software engineers. Okay. So we sort of like, they come to us with a new feature that they want to implement, or some sort of, extra functionality. Then we'll go through like a design phase. We'll design some things typically on like Adobe XD, and then eventually the software engineers will also go through like a solution design type of thing. But more specifically, we'll do the designs and then eventually implement mostly the front end stuff. We'll do some back end stuff, but mostly front end.
Okay. And do you enjoy what you do?
Oh yeah, it's really cool. Specifically, this last few sprints that we have done, we started working on new functionality. So I joined the team, I think, in about March, and they were already, sort of busy with stuff that they have already previously planned and designed. So I sort of like jumped in the middle. But this is sort of like a completely new thing, starting from scratch, talking with the client and everything. So that's really cool to see the whole process, and I've really actually been enjoying it. So yeah, I definitely enjoy it. It's very cool.
And what made you decide to go into UI UX versus anything else you could have done?
I think mostly, to be honest, the opportunity. They came to me. I actually did some vacation work for them, and then they contacted me and offered me the job. And yeah, I don't really have a different, I didn't specifically go into, I want to go do UI UX. But when they offered it to me, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I think I'll enjoy that a lot. So then, yeah, that's sort of just the direction that I went. Okay.
The vacation work, how did that happen? Did you approach them while you were studying?
No. So I think it was IMY 310, they came to class. I think Dave invited them, or they maybe approached Dave. I'm not sure. But they came to our class, told us a bit about themselves, and then just offered the position. We had to go obviously through a whole interview process and everything. But they were specifically looking for multimedia people, and I thought it was really cool. And they also offered some payment. So that was also
that's
a bonus. Nice. Yeah, so it was really cool. Got to work there. It was really nice.
And that was during the December holidays after you studied, or what?
No, that was during
the July holidays.
July in third year, yeah.
And that was it full-time for that time?
No. Well, yeah, actually it was full-time. Yeah, it was 7 to 9 type of thing. Okay. Not 7 to 9, 7 to 5.
7 to 5, okay. And did they teach you skills there, or what kind of work did you do in the vacation work?
So we were like a group of a few students, different I think it was the only one that was multimedia. Actually, they had some engineers there and some IT cos students. They basically split us into little groups, and then we each had like a project. I think they, because they are used to very big projects that go on for very long, they maybe, struggle to find a project that we could do in 2 weeks. So they did their best, and I think that we got some really cool things to do. I think ours, geez, I can't even remember, it was like a, wow, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a online web thing. So they had some engineers that did like way complicated things, but we just had like a little project that they gave us. They did give us mentors that would like come and, we could ask them questions and sort of figure out how they do their things and their like standards and stuff. But mostly they sort of like, left us, gave us a lot of documentation and a lot of resources and stuff, but they sort of, let us do our own thing.
Sure. That sounds really cool, actually. Sounds like a cool way to get into your first job, having had some experience before.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. It was very, I don't know, just like help you get into the whole work environment without having to, be all stressed that, oh, this is my actual first job. I need to really impress them. And, it's just a vacation job. It's a bit more chilled.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about how you found your first 6 months working? I know it probably hasn't been conventional, but just because I think that's one of the main reasons I wanted to interview you, is because you are new in the industry, and it would be cool to find out what your experience has been going from studying full-time to working full-time.
Sure. It's been a lot. And like you said, it's not conventional because it's, working from home. I think I've been working from home almost as much as I've been working at the office, actually.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I've actually spoken to some other graduates about this as well, the biggest thing is that with studying, it's sort of, you go to class, you get your assignments at night, you sit till, 11, 12, 1 a.m. doing your assignments, and that's your sort of day to day. Whereas with working, it's sort of, you go to work, you work the whole day. So it's like I feel like a lot longer stretch of work that you're doing. But then, when you clock out, you're done. And then you come home, and it's a completely different feeling coming home and actually knowing that, okay, I can actually chill because I can't do work right now. I'm not at the office, or, I'm not in front of my desk. So that's a completely different outlook on your work. And I think it's also what I've experienced with like this past 6 months is that it's a lot it's a lot longer. So, with the projects and assignments, you do it for like maybe a few weeks or at most like for the whole semester. But with this, it's like, this is a thing that you're going to be doing for a long time, the project that I'm on right now. So it's it's a different mind shift that I've made. It's not like this thing that I have to cram and finish and get it out now. It's sort of like this just ongoing process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how's it working in a team? How have you found that?
At first, very intimidating, obviously, because they're all a lot more experienced. I did know the one girl, Monica. She also studied multimedia like a year ahead of me, and I actually spoke to her before I joined the company just to like get a feel of what what it's about, and also working with honors and everything. But I think the biggest thing for me in the team is that in the beginning, I definitely sort of underestimated myself. I felt, oh, I'm just I'm new at this. I should let them tell me exactly what to do and everything. And they sort of actually don't do that. So they give you the thing to do, or actually it's more like you decide what to do. There's a whole task board. You pick a task and then you do it. And whenever you need help, they're super helpful. You just turn around and ask them, and they'll give you the help you need. But what I found a lot of the times is that I think I'm going to do it this way, but I'm not sure because I feel new and I feel out of the game. So I'm going to ask them for help. And then sort of like the idea that I had, the thing that I wanted to do was actually the right thing, or it was maybe even better than the software engineers could have thought out for a UI UX thing. So it's sort of like definitely doubted myself in the beginning. I definitely still doubt myself, but I'm finding more and more to sort of go with my gut and go with what I've, got through the experience and everything, and sort of just go with it. And then if there is something, obviously still ask questions and still learn.
Yeah.
But, I feel like I've definitely got some value to contribute to the team, which I thought in the beginning that, I didn't really have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that, so what you were just describing is like, it sounds like they wanted you to use a lot of your own initiative, which I suppose is quite different to the sort of structured assignments and that sort of thing that you get at university, where you sort of told, well, this is what's required. Would you say that's right? Is that the big shift that you're describing?
Yes, definitely. So like in university, it's like, okay, you have this project, it needs to do this and this and this, and it, needs all these functionality and stuff. Whereas with this, it's sort of the client just comes to you and is like, we want to do this, and it's very vague, and you have to sort of drill down into the more details and make a lot of your own choices actually in terms of, how this is going to work and what it's going to look like and exactly what it's going to do and stuff like that. So it's a lot more freedom really than assignments and stuff.
Okay. And I'm guessing you've probably learned a lot since you've started. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Like, does it feel like everything you've studied has gone out the window and you've had to learn from scratch, or how has that worked?
Definitely not everything that I studied went out the window. I think I learned a lot from multimedia, and I've still got a lot of stuff that I bring from there to work. But I have learned a lot from work. But I'd say mostly, so when we started working, we had a sort of like a little graduate training program that we did for a month, and we built an app in Angular. So then I learned Angular. That was super cool to learn that. The project that we're building now is written in Angular, in Aurelia, which is similar to Angular. But so then I've had to learn that as well. And on top of that, so like every now and then I'll do some back-end stuff and in .NET and everything. So I've learned a whole bunch of, like, let's say, languages and definitely some standards and stuff that is in the team and within the company. But things like, like I said, we use Adobe XD like a lot. And that is definitely something I learned from multimedia, and how to use that and how to prototype and all those things. And in terms of design and, what works well, what looks well, what to avoid, and all those things, definitely got from multimedia. So there's definitely like, it's not all out the window, but there's also like a lot of things that I have learned over the few 6 months.
Yeah, that makes sense. While we're actually on this topic, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you've already sort of touched on it, but how has the degree helped you? I assume IMY 310 has been quite helpful, but maybe what other skills have you found from the degree that have been really particularly helpful?
So yeah, like you said, the IMY 310, that was super cool. The interactions and interfaces and all those things, learning about that. I think what multimedia taught me, like, overall, is like a backbone for criticism, which is something I noticed in the graduate training thing. So we had our quote unquote client was just one of the managers, who was, we were building like a little tool for him. And whenever we had a meeting and we were going over designs, he would sort of feel bad and sort of not try to criticize. And the same with our mentors that we had, they would, try and give advice without being too harsh on us. And then eventually we just told them, like, listen, you can just say exactly what you want to say, because, we're sort of not numb to it, but it's definitely something that you learn in multimedia, is that, don't take your work up personally. If someone comes and tells you, like, listen, this doesn't look good, change this, like, it's definitely something that you had to learn if you wanted to cope. I think more along the lines of, actual like coding and stuff like that. Definitely learned a lot of like HTML and CSS tricks that I use like every day. Good practices as well. Not using, outdated formats and stuff like that. It's definitely stuff that, because the project that we're working on is about 3 years old. And when it started, they didn't have UI UX people, like specifically front end people. So there's like a lot of stuff that's quite outdated. Like, it's still, it's fine, it works. But then whenever me and Monica come across it, we sort of, update it to be more modern or relevant in terms of the what do you call them?
The standards, Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm guessing with regards to receiving criticism, that VIO, the whole client relationship thing that they set up there, I'm guessing that's helped a lot.
Yes, definitely. Those sessions that we had, like I think we had them about every week, where we'd show the progress. I mean, they were quite harsh in VIO, but it was good. So it was definitely a teaching opportunities to like help you understand that, they're not attacking you personally.
Yeah. There was one more thing I wanted to ask. Oh, the design skills you learned. How do I ask this? Where would you say you picked them up in your degree? Or maybe you can, I don't know, clarify a little bit. Like, do you feel like the degree taught you adequate design skills to help you? Or, maybe that's a bit of an open-ended question.
So I think there are like a lot of opportunities in multimedia to actually pick up on design. There's not like specifically a design module or anything like that. But for example, VIO, the feedback that they give you there, we actually do learn a lot of things in there as well. I think in other modules, just any module really where we do something visual, it's sort of like an opportunity for you to I don't know, shine, I guess. I know my one friend always says that, like, if something looks really good, what she found in multimedia is if something looks really good, you generally get better marks than if it works, but it doesn't really look great. And that's definitely something that, you can use at your advantage, and then also like use that to pick up on design.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, sort of definitely in the game module, because I did like all of our art assets and stuff. I learned a lot of design there. You can see it from level 1 to level 3, like the change that I had in terms of, what looks good and what colors work together, stuff like that. So that definitely gave me a lot of experience.
Okay, cool. Very helpful. And you're busy doing your honors degree alongside working full time. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you're experiencing that? Is it hectic? Would you recommend it? And why did you choose to do it this way in particular?
So I'm doing my honors over 2 years, not 1 year. And I got that from talking to Monica and hearing her experience. And I'm definitely very glad that I didn't do it over 1 year, because I think it would have been quite hectic. The way I have it now, I have about like 2 modules per semester. I have a big project this year as well. And I don't think it's going too hectic. It's quite chilled actually. Like I have enough time in the evenings to do the projects and the assignments that I need to do and go through my work. But I also have enough time during the week to actually just take a few nights off every now and then, because it is quite hectic. You do get exhausted. I mean, you're sitting in front of a desk the whole day, but it's, it's exhausting. And then to go home and sit in front of your other desk and continue working, it's a bit much. So it's definitely necessary to have a few nights where you can just chill and not work on it. I think I would definitely recommend it if you are interested in any of the modules in honors. I think if you sort of just do honors just because you want to do honors and get that extra qualification, I don't really know if it would be beneficial to you. Like I said, like if any of the modules stand out to you and you're thinking, I really want to broaden my experience and my knowledge on this particular topic, even if it's just one of them, I think it's definitely worth it. But I would definitely recommend doing it over 2 years if you're working full time, because I think it would be quite hectic. And especially now with the whole pandemic going on, I'm very happy that I only did it over 2 years.
Yeah. I think you're right about the honors, in that you sort of, if there's anything that you're interested in, you sort of put your energy and effort into that, and you'll gain those skills. Like you say, don't just do it for an extra qualification, because especially if you're doing it while working, it's hard, and it might not feel worthwhile if it's not something you're interested in. Definitely.
Moving
on to the interview process or how you went about getting a job, I'm guessing yours might be a little bit different because you already had the vacation work behind you, but maybe you could explain a little bit about the interview process and maybe lessons you learned from that.
So I think my experience is quite a bit different because I had the vacation job, then they contacted me. So for the vacation job, we had an interview, and then they contacted me, and then I had like a final interview. And I actually didn't go to any other interviews for any other jobs, which kind of feels a bit funny to me, sort of going with your first option. But I really did like the company, so I'm very happy. But so the interview, we had the first interview for the vacation job. For that, I had to send them my CV and my portfolio, actually my Vio portfolio that they asked for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they specifically knew that we had created that, so they wanted to see that. The first interview was mostly, I don't know if Gendac is different from other companies because, I haven't had any other experience in other interviews. But specifically, Gendac was very much more looking about your personality and, what type of person you are. And I specifically remember them asking things from my CV. So they would look at things from my CV and then sort of ask me to elaborate on that, but more like on a personal level and like, what I learned from the thing that I wrote, like for my experiences and stuff. So the interviews were actually very personal, very chilled. I was obviously super nervous beforehand, but it was actually very easygoing, and they were sort of just like more like a getting to know you. I actually expected them to ask, like technical questions. I thought they would, try and get to see if I actually, know what I'm talking about. But there's actually none of those technical questions. Just a lot of them getting to know me and actually me getting to know them as well.
Okay. Based on that, do you have any tips for someone going for their first interview?
I think sort of be prepared for, that sounds silly, but be prepared for any type of question. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing for me is that I would get a question and then sort of, panic. But I think you can take your time answering the questions in the interview. I think they would actually appreciate that. It shows that you're at least giving your answers some thought. So don't be like afraid to just, blurt out the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And then I definitely, something that I wish I had known is that you need to ask them some questions as well.
That's true.
If you come to an interview, prepare some questions about them, like any sort of things about what they do or, their visions and all those sorts of things. They like that you come there prepared and that you also want to get to know them as well.
Okay, that's really helpful. Very cool. Anything else about the portfolio? Did they ever ask for anything more than your Vio portfolio?
They actually didn't. I don't think so. But I do have like other portfolio, that I had prepared in case they did want to see more of my work. Okay.
Cool. So the last two questions are mainly just about your experience in the degree, specifically because you are so recently out of third year. Maybe you can give some tips to current third years, people going into third year, or even just the degree in general, any lessons you learned, things you wish you knew, things you would change if you could go back. Maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
I think specifically for third year, I know it's actually very difficult if I were to say this now, but what helped our group a lot is that we got together and worked, and that might obviously not be possible right now, which kind of sucks, but that was definitely something that helped our group out a lot. We all worked sort of on different things, but it was nice just to sit and get each other's input like immediately. So even if you guys just like sit on Discord, I think that's definitely something that helped our team. I also think splitting out the work so like, specific, like, coding and art and everything definitely made things easier because you have something to focus on more instead of trying to put your attention on everything.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the entire degree, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would be to start on that project like right now. Like
the game, you mean?
No, like on every single assignment. because it's always a thing that you just, you delay, and then you sort of push in those, last few hours, and you might pass, but then it's sort of like, I sit with a few projects that I wish so much more that I would have put more effort in, because then I could use those projects as part of my portfolio. It's super valuable to have those projects and to have those assignments that you actually value and that you think, you could show this to a future employer and they'd be really impressed. Whereas if you maybe just got like a 55 on it, it might not be your best work. So that's definitely something I regret. I remember I think IMY220 is the website that we make with Diffie. I was super disappointed with my website, and I really wish that I put more effort into it, because then I could have like a really cool thing to show off right now. Yes, and I don't. So that's definitely something I regret, and I wish I could go back and fix.
Sure. That's helpful advice. It's obviously makes more sense in hindsight. And in the moment you're like, no, it's fine. I can wait a little bit longer, but I totally understand that. I feel the same way. So that's very good advice.
I remember in IMY 300, you guys specifically told us in the beginning of the module, start now. And I remember Diffie also saying in IMY 220, start now, and you never listen, but you really should.
No, that's good. You can include this in this question, but is there any other tips that you could give to a new multimedia graduate or current student?
Sure. I think for a new graduate, I think, like I said, don't doubt yourself. The degree that you studied is definitely worth it, and you have like a lot of experience and knowledge that is very valuable to a lot of people. So don't doubt that, and just be confident, but also don't be afraid to ask questions, like a lot of questions. I think for like a new multimedia student, I think the most important thing that I found while I was studying is that I needed to focus on the things that I liked and sort of just get through the things that I didn't like. So, as typical multimedia students, the COS modules are, a bit of a thorn in the side. But, just stick through them. You don't have to go do that one day. It's not going to possibly be part of your job. So if you don't like a particular module, don't think that this is going to be your life for the rest of your life. Focus on the modules that are really fun, and work hard on them so that, like I said, you have something to show for them one day, so that you can go to a job that you want with the things that you did that you wanted to do.
Sure. Very, very good advice. Thanks for that. That brings us to the end of the interview. Awesome. I want to say thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. I know compared to maybe some other people we've had on the podcast, you've been working for 6 months, but that's really valuable experience. And that's the kind of thing that I think people who've been working for 10, 15 years, they forget what it was like in that first year and what it was like when they first interview and how it felt to be new in a team and not feel like you have experience. So I think you've given a really good insight, specifically for new graduates. And you've also, I think, given a lot of cool perspectives on the degree. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. It was really cool.
Pleasure.